The following is a presentation from the Greece Historical Society. The second Tuesdays of the month programs from the Greece Historical Society are sponsored by members of the Greece Historical Society and by the sponsors of advertisements in the newsletter. Space for today's program is sponsored by the Greece Central School District's Transportation and Support Services Facility. The late, great Sibley, Lindsay Curr Company, presented by Donovan Shilling. Recorded September 10th, 2024.
Good evening, folks. How's everybody doing tonight? Good? Glad to be here? Well, we're off to another start of a school year. It's hard to believe that the 2024-2025 school year has started, as well as the resume of the monthly programs put on by the Greece Historical Society. Greece Central School District has built this wonderful facility, not only for the school district and professional development opportunities, but also for the community. So we are happy to open the doors. My name is Dave Richardson, lifelong resident, grew up in Greece, born and raised in Greece, graduated from Athena, been in the district for 21 years as a school district administrator, happy and proud to work here each and every day. And be a member of the Greece Historical Society, and as well as serve on the Board of Trustees. So happy to host these events and open up our doors to the community, because without you, you're what makes the community great. So we thank you. As I mentioned before, a little housekeeping. Emergency exits are the four corners, going out this door to get outside, also goes out this door to get you outside, restrooms to your left. I want to introduce our president, Bill Sowers. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. And let's hope I think the last time we had a little technical difficulties. Next month, our program is on the hops and beer industry in this area and back in the past centuries. So with the advent today of all the new breweries, there were breweries here, and we were one of the major hops growing areas in the country. So our speaker is, I forgot her name, so. Very good friend of mine, I can't remember her name. So anyway, history can have the reputation of being boring. But our speaker tonight is what you might call an extreme enthusiast when it comes to finding stories behind the people and places of the past. Donovan Shilling is a native of Fairport. He has written over a dozen books about the history of Rochester. He is a retired middle school science teacher and administrator. He has taught classes in local history to adults at the Rochester Museum and Science Center, and for more than 20 years, In fact, today he was at the Penfield Library giving a talk. And so, kind of a busy guy, and he is also a longtime member of the Greece Historical Society. So please welcome Donovan Shilling. Jane Oakes, by the way, is the lady's name.
Thank you. Wow, look at all the nice people here. I see this. All the important people are here. Right. Good. What we're going to do this evening is take a look at one of Rochester's really iconic kind of department stores. Sibley's was really different. It wasn't quite like Macy's, but in many ways it was better. One of the interesting things that I found is that they had somebody called a window dresser. Now, he didn't dress the windows, he put all kinds of interesting things in the windows, and they had more windows than Macy's, believe it or not, and Sibley's. And people did something they don't do anymore. They went window shopping. They never brought a window home, but their window shopping was something that is gone today. So we'll take a look at what Sibley's was like when it was lit and great. Okay, so we'll begin, if I can get this thing right. Yes. Ta-da! Oh, that's nice. Oh, there we go. Okay. This is the gentleman who started it all. As you can see, he was Rufus Adams Sibley. Rufus was a real charmer, nice guy. He had some people working with him. And here are some of the people who worked with him. One was Alexander Lindsay, as you can see, a Scottish merchant. Nice personality, worked well with the young ladies that worked in the store. And that was very good. And then he had another gentleman named Kerr. But Mr. Kerr had asthma. And so he had to resign and move to a better climate. Got 1897, received a buyout of $140,000, which was real money back then. It's not bad today, as a matter of fact. So those are the people who were in charge, who built this very interesting and unusual department store that made Rochester the center of shopping for this part of the world. Okay. Interesting thing, just outside of on Main Street, near where the Liberty Pole is today, we had an original Liberty Pole. And a little story about how Mr. Lindsay almost got clunked in the head as that Liberty Pole fell over. But you can see it there, and that would be at the point where on the left-hand side of the screen is where the new pole stands today, the tower. Okay, well, let's take a look at the way it began. It began as a one-story building, not 1, 2, 3, 4 stories, and then it got larger, expanded and doubled its space. More and more people got interested in what they had to say, what they had to sell. And what did they have to sell? Well, dress goods, silks, hosiery and underwear, clothes and corsets. What's a corset? and gloves. And you can see there, the store was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories tall, and it was growing, and it continued to grow. As you can see, in the 1880s, they had a much larger store, and you can see the way it looked. By the 1880s, they had gone to a much bigger store, and kept growing. And then the newest location was the Granite Building in 1893. And you can see what the Granite Building looked like. That building is still there. They had we'll go into it today. We'll talk about the fire. Okay. So here's one of the early ads for it. As you can see, Sibley lives in the country. It has all kinds of good things it says about it up there. Reception and retiring rooms, tea room, telegraph and express departments, parcel desks. The store's service is yours. Whoa, well, that's kind of neat. And look at it, it was in the Granite Building, and the Granite Building is still there. However, it was almost not there, and we'll find that out in a minute. Here we are. Rochester was famous for its various groups of people like the Elks and other people who would come to Rochester for their various fairs and so on. And here's the Rochester Street Fair that's run by, as you can see up here, the Elks and their badges in 1899. Well, guess what? I think that Sibley's going to be there. And there's their ad. 1899, the fair and the store. And as you can see there in the Granite Building. Our more than 500 departments supply the merchandise of the world at the lowest possible cost. Whoa, well, I better get there. Okay, let's move on. And we find out what their tea room looks like. Wow, wouldn't you like to have tea there? Look at the old fancy tables there. Except it's all guys. I don't know where the gals are. But it's very Victorian looking. And it was a very interesting part of the Rochester downtown scene. So if you got thirsty, you could either go to one of those thirst powers, or you could come down to the tea room. And that worked out okay. Now, unfortunately, in February, they had, in 1904, they had a little problem. And there was this fire. And the fire really, really ripped through downtown. Almost made it to North Clinton. started on one side and it just kept going because of the ice and snow, and it's almost very hard to put out. And they were located in the building at the end of this, the granite building. And you can see what happened to the granite building. What happened was that the safe fell down several stories, the door opened up, all the accounts receivable were lost, but so many of the people in Rochester were so good, they still paid whatever they owed, which was wonderful, way back at the turn of the century. But it really did a job on that granite building. But the building is still there today. Okay, look at that. They lost $2 million. Wow, almost $3 million. Big fire, and you can see by looking at the area that it spread. What happened was this. Chief Little called for mutual aid. He called up Syracuse. He called up Buffalo. And in both places, they put flat cars on the railroad, and then they took their pumper cars and pulled them up there and raced them to Rochester. And they got them here and they took them off. The horses brought them in. They got to putting their hose connections into our hydrants. They didn't fit. We had a different diameter. Buffalo had a different one than Syracuse and Rochester. Well, nothing was in common. But what happened was we had a canal and we had a river. So they put a lot of their hoses in the river and the canal, and that helped a lot. So they confined the fire to that area that you see in red. However, it was a total loss of almost $3 million, which is really something else. And you can see the date up there, February 27th, 1904. Sibley is almost gone. Well, they're going to come back. I know it, because there they are. This is the area that they decided that they were going to build a department store in. And before that time, it was called the Empire Theater. That's at the corner of North Clinton and East Main Street. And that's the way it looked, way back when. And up there at the very top of this illustration, you can see the tower of the Baptist Church. The Baptist Church was red Medina sandstone. It was a beautiful building. Okay, we'll move on. And now, what's interesting about this picture, looking down Main Street in Rochester, from West Main to East Main, is way, way up in the distance. You see that little tower being built? That's Sibley's. So that particular postcard, or whatever, shows where Sibley's is going to be, the new Sibley's. And that tower is very interesting. There it is, you can see it, the skeleton of it. And you can see how large the clock is by looking at that. Well, interestingly enough, that tower was on some property on East Main Street that belonged to a guy named Fallon, I think. And he didn't like that fact that they had built this building. So if you look closely at the building's tower today, there's a plaque on it that honors his name, Fallon. Okay. There's Sibley's in all its glory. You can see that they were having an Elks convention here in 1904, and they decorated the building up. And it was very interesting. The windows, by the way, are called Chicago style. They're 3-paneled windows. And you can see the windows here, in the paneling, in the tower, 1909. It was an impressive building even back then. And look at all the windows. People could actually do this thing called window shopping. My mother brought a window home, but she did a lot of window shopping. Okay. And that's gone today. I don't think there's anybody in the room today that does any window shopping. Okay, well, we'll move on. Rochester's Industrial Exhibition, all the good things in the city in 1909, and one of them was an enlarged Sibley's. And you can see it on North Street as well as on East Main Street. So Sibley's is growing. And look at the people outside. Just packed with people. I think that they must be waiting for a parade or something. I can't imagine why there would be so many pedestrians on both sides of the street. But you can see that it's in the 1880s that this picture was taken. Okay. Notice the transportation, trolley cars up and down the streets, people lining it. It must be going to have a parade or something when you see that number of pedestrians standing around. And here's another view of it. It grew. The building that you see, that's 1 story taller than the other buildings, was an add-on. The windows are called Chicago-style windows. They're three panel windows that Sibley's has. And of course you can see the little triangle building in the middle where our Liberty Pole stands today. On the corner of North Street and East Main Street. Trolleys going by. And if it got a little warm in the summertime, they had something called awnings. Look at all those awnings out there. That's kind of neat too. So you know which direction the sun was coming from. And we move on, and this is the tower. And a guy named Fallon said that some of that was his property. So right here, right there, is a special plaque with his name on it. So he was happy. Okay. All right. And then, of course, it became an icon for downtown Rochester. And it still is. The tower still remains. Now, in the back of the building on North Street, there is an interesting fountain. And you can see it here. It's called the Jane Putman Drinking Fountain, North Main, behind Sibley's building. And you see the 3 parts of it. And that's what the fountain looks like today. I don't know if anybody takes a drink out of that fountain today, but they put it up there. Okay. Sibley's is Rochester Shopping Center. And when you think about it, there was nothing like that in Syracuse. I guess they might have had something in Buffalo, I'm not sure. But Sibley's was really a center for a lot of shopping because they had many departments. And departments had a lot of good advertising too that brought a lot of people in. So here, welcome to Sibley's. This is an example of it. People who want to stay at the hotel, at the Sheraton Hotel, can stay there in the wintertime and do their winter Christmas shopping while they're going out of the hotel to go downtown for that. Largest, finest department store, old-fashioned hospitality. Wow, look at all the good things. 153 shops, which is nice, all under one roof. And look at those windows. There were actually, I maybe I said it before, more windows in Sibley's than in Macy's. And those windows were dressed by window dressers whose job it was to make the products look interesting to the people who came by. And Sibley's grew, as you can see. In the 1960s, Greasetown Mall, all here in Eastway Plaza, and Southtown. They were all Sibley's, and over in Greece. That was super, right here. We didn't have to go anywhere, we were in Greece. So they had a big store there. And look at the size of it, it was pretty good. So not only that, but then they moved on. So not only did they have a store here in Rochester, but now they've got one in Syracuse and in Newark. And you can see what those stores look like. 1.5 million square feet, 34 square acres, a total of 191 individual departments. Well, just a big development that you can see here. So Sibley's really grew between 1968 and 1969. That was a lot of growth for Sibley's. One of the largest telephone order departments in the United States, a mailing department which sends out more than 4 million individual pieces of mail each year. Single day before Christmas, it's estimated that well over 100,000 persons have entered Sibley's stores with individual transactions. Wow, that was big. Well, it was the biggest store downtown. I mean, it was Edwards, and there was this other one called McCurdy's across the street. But Sibley's had the honor of being the biggest and had the mostest. Okay. Now, what is an icon? An icon is something that everybody remembers. My mother told me that if I ever got lost, in Sibley's, go and stand underneath this big clock in Sibley's. And there's the big clock. Today it's on a post, but when I was there, when I was young, and we weren't there, it hung from the ceiling. Now I am a native of Fairport, and back in the 1940s, see I'm old, we would go shopping. And one of the interesting things about Sibley's was they had the doorway that was revolving. We didn't have anything like that in Fairport. I was going out the door, my mom was still going in. And then I got inside, and they had this stairway that moved. Well, I had such a good time on that, I was coming down while my mother was still going up. It was amazing. Boy, did I like that place. Revolving doors and moving stairways. Wow, that was great. And they had something that we didn't have in Fairport. They had something called an elevator. And they had this nice little lady who sort of had a little short lady on a little stool, and she would operate this machine that took us up and down. It was wonderful. It's called an elevator. Oh, I thought that was wonderful. It was just like going to Seabreeze or something. And so there's the clock. So today the clock is on a post. It's still there, but it's been removed a little bit. Other things have happened there, as you can see. They've connected it to a parking garage and made it more accessible, but it's not the same. You can't, I don't think you can buy very much merchandise there. But inside, the elevator bank had these beautiful, beautiful plaster frescoes that you see here. The building scene over here, and the industrial buildings, building the big Rochester skyline, unique. It was very nice, and those are still there. But it was nice, it was Sibley's that had them, because Sibley's has a lot of class. It was a class act, I guess, that's what I would call it. Now, guess what? There were no cash registers in Sibley's. There was 26 miles of copper tubing. They went two tubes went to each department. And then from the departments, they went down, these vacuum tubes, down to the cash registers in the basement. It was amazing. And that's where all these ladies lined up, made the change, put everything in a little capsule, and then vacuum, shot it back up and went thump. It came out, and the transaction was made. So there they are, and there the girls are in the tube room in the basement. Unbelievable. 26 miles of copper tubing. Now that'd be worth a couple of dollars today.
What year was that?
You can see it. Each department had two tubes, one coming and one going.
Approximately what year is somebody asked?
Okay, this would have been the 1920s and 30s.
I think they still had it in the 50s for charges.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, well, talking about charging things, Rochester was kind of unique. Before what we carry today, they had their own charger plates. And the charger plate could be used not just for Sibley's, but little notches could be put into it so you could use it for Edwards or Foreman's or McCurdy's. And that was very, very handy. People carried it and used that. Now the neat thing about Sibley's was this. If you bought something there, like a pair of shoes, now you're going to go to the movies. We don't want to lug those shoes around. You know what Sibley's would do? They would deliver them to your house, which was wonderful. So you could go and watch a movie and have to hold your shoes on your lap or whatever. So that was great too. Now this is Sibley's cafeteria in the basement. As a student at Brockport State, when I was learning how to be a teacher, in the summertime I got a job there. And I will never forget one of my experiences there. It was 7 o'clock in the morning when all the employees had their early coffee down in the basement of Sibley's before the doors were open to the public. And I'm in line, and this nice lady, a dark lady, was serving the coffee. And I said, well, that's awfully strong. She says, Sonny, I looked around. I guess it was for me. She says, there ain't no such thing as strong coffee. There's just weak people. I remember, and that was funny. Well, okay. Well, we'll move on. Notice the interesting hats. So this is probably taken in the 40s, the 30s or 40s. Pictures of the Sibley's restaurant in the basement. Popular place in the morning for the people who work there too. And guess if you didn't believe I worked there, there's my pay slip. Look at that. Whoa. See, Donovan Shilling up there. Whoa. $73. Oh, see, I was going to Brockport State at the time. But in the summertime, I could work there. And there it is. And not only that, but they did something that they had down at Ontario Beach Park. And that was something called Fairchild's Fairy Fritters. And in the summertime, you could buy them at the Ontario Beach. But in the wintertime, they made them in the basement of Sibley's. So you can see here, in manufactured basement of Sibley, Lindsay Curr. And if you haven't had a fairy fritter, you haven't had a fritter. Okay. Well, this just proves I worked there. Now, they were very, very good at advertising and doing things unusually. And you can see this young lady she's out on a limb. Next to the escalators, and really well done. It's just different. A lot of things in Sibley's was different, which made it really special to go in and see it. Okay, you know, one time, I looked at that elevator. There was a little kid in front of us. He got his boot stuck. It's the Sibley's in the elevator. You know, his toe, and his mother had to pull him out and left some of the boot rubber in the escalator. But that was interesting too. Okay. Now, the neat thing about Sibley's, not only were the merchandise there, but the delicatessen was special. Their cakes were really special. They had a great bakery, and you could buy a lot of good things there. And that's part of their delicatessen. Great. And they go back a ways, if you don't believe it. These are some ads from the 1880s on a bicycle. They sell you a bicycle for only $50. That was a deal. But $50 is worth like probably $100 today or more. A nice pair of shoes for $4 or $5 a pair. And then, of course, there's the button hook. You get your button shoes on, and away you go. I got worse stuff in my basement you wouldn't believe. Button hook is one of them. Okay. Let's see what else there is. Oh, yes. They had shops for different sized people, and this is the 12 to 16 size. Young ladies could buy their clothes there, and it was just a nice place to go. Of course, I was bored silly when my mother went there, but that's okay. That's all right. And then they had this ad out here that tells you about what the young lady should have as she goes to college, and for dancing and formals and whatever, and what they should buy. Flashes and important that your dramatic life that will lead during your college career. Whoa. Okay. Well, I don't know if that sold many gowns or any of their dresses, but that was some of the silly. That was a nice thing. You looked at the Democratic Chronicle or the Times Union. Remember that, Times Union? And there were ads in there, full-page ads about the products that they had for sale. And it was just great. Here's some advertising, more modern advertising today. Men's leather belts and buckles and things. And they had little tower tips for the ladies. They'd send those home, and gives you some idea of what you hadn't even thought that you wanted to buy it, but once you saw it, maybe you ought to go out there and buy one of those. And of course, up on the 4th floor, or the 5th floor, there's a special elevator that you took to the restaurant up there. And in the summertime, not in the summer, in the wintertime, that's where Santa Claus would be. So if you wanted to have your child meet Santa, you had to take him up there. And he would be holding forth there at this dining area. It doesn't show it here, but they did have a place later on where they could dispense salads and other things in that dining room upstairs. And again, this is up on, I think it's the 5th floor, and took a special elevator that took you up there. Window shopping. One of Windows' many window displays, more than Macy's had. And look at the amount of work that went into making this underwater scene in a window. And it was there for maybe a month or two. But just amazing that they would put this kind of effort into attracting people. And this is when people went downtown and looked in store windows. And it really did some window shopping. Because you could see McCurdy's, Edwards, and of course Sibley's itself. Because Sibley's had these great big windows. Now, what's really neat, if you were a kid, I don't think anybody was ever a kid here, but anyway, if you were a kid at Christmas time and you looked in their windows, especially the corner window of North Clinton and East Avenue, big window, there would be all kinds of things in there. You might have a big Ferris wheel made out of Richter sets. You could see model railroad going around, a model railroad going through tunnels around the Christmas tree. You could see an elf moving up down an automaton, and he was putting some tinsel on a tree in the window. It was amazing the different things that you could see in Macy's windows and Sibley's windows, more than Macy's. During the war, and this is probably in it says 1943, okay, people coming out of Sibley's, getting on buses. You can see it was probably in December. It looks like it. You can see the snow on the ground. But look at the people downtown. People went downtown and whatever. It just crowded. Okay.
You may want to hold that a minute. Fanny Farmers was on the corner, and Planters Peanuts was after that. I'm sure a lot of people remember that.
You know what was neat for a kid? Not just Fanny Farmers. By the way, Fanny became popular because she wrote the first cookbook with ingredients, the amount of the ingredients in it. So Fanny Farmer was special. But anyway, Mr. Peanut would be out there. No, not in the wintertime, but in the summertime, all dressed up like a big peanut. And he would hand you a little spoonful of hot peanuts. I mean, wow, this was great. It was really, really great. And you look at the store. In the back of the store were chains hanging up of threaded peanuts, hanging up strings of peanuts. It was just different. Okay. Christmas time. When I was young, and this was back before back when the land was still young and gasoline was cheap, way back when, they had a Sibley's Christmas parade, Santa parade. They call it not Sibley's parade, a Santa parade. And the street would be decorated up, as this you see here, they're getting ready for the parade. They actually had tethered balloons, guys walking by with tethered balloons. And then, of course, at the very end, you'd have Santa coming by in a sleigh, usually on the bed of a truck. But there he was, Santa waving to everybody. And it was great to have a Santa Claus parade in Rochester. But that was back, when time, like as I said, when gasoline was cheap and the earth was young. Okay. Now, speaking of Christmas, up on the 4th floor was Toyland. And Toyland was really, really special. And you can see the decorations, the things they got ready for tournament. They had a tunnel, and you went through the tunnel, and you had to wait in line. The line went back and forth before you could go in there because it was so popular. And there was one guy who stood there selling kazoos. Somebody remember the kazoo man? I'll never forget him. How many kazoos he sold, I have no idea, but there he was. And as you went through the tunnel itself, you saw all these various scenes. Now, a lot of it had automatons so that the elephants and so on would be moving. And it made it that much more interesting to a little kid to go through and see that. Now, the fourth floor also is where they had all the toys. And that's where they had the giant erector sets with the Ferris wheels, and they had the trains going around, a Christmas tree. It would be a Lionel train. And it was just marvelous for kids. And you can see some of the decorations that you saw as you went in there. And then I also put in the kazoos from the corner. Because they must have sold a dozen kazoos an hour anyway. They had your magazine. This magazine is from the 1930s, but in the 30s and 40s, they had kids' magazines. And it would have products inside, and also there would be puzzles for kids and other designs and things that made it interesting, part of the juvenile magazine for Sibley's. Now, Sibley's grew. And here it is, welcome to Sibley's, because not only is there one in Rochester, but there was one in Newark, over in Victor. It wasn't in Victor, but it was, well, they call it Victor. It was Eastview. Okay. Over in Syracuse, in Newark, they had Sibley stores. So they were fascinating. And then budget stores. Greasetown Mall, Rundequoit Plaza, Southtown, Victor, Syracuse Downtown, Fairfield Mall. There were a lot of Sibleys going on in Christmas time. It was just amazing. 15 main or budget stores. Okay. That was a lot of stores. Okay, what about people who worked there? What they did to orient their employees to meet the public. They were important. What they expected of them. Be honest, be cooperative, be enthusiastic, perform your job to the best of your ability, and Sibley's will give you safe, pleasant working conditions, fair play and fair treatment, equal opportunity for advancement, and all that good stuff. Okay. So working for Sibley's wasn't going to be dead, but you couldn't be sloppy and work for Sibley's. These were some of the things that were required if you worked there. Notice you got to wear a pair of slacks that wasn't sloppy. It didn't look like it would just come out of the farmyard. If you had a blouse on, you'd better button it. Okay, you can see that. Not sandals, but a good pair of shoes. Not a wrinkly old jacket, but a nice coat. Ladies, you better not show your legs like that. No, see, look at, see, and look, not chewing gum. Have a neat hairstyle. Let's see. It means wearing clothes that are cleaned and pressed. It is not eating or drinking in the working area. Okay. Probably shouldn't chew gum either. First violation, vile warning. Second violation, written warning. Third violation, I think you're going to be looking for a job. So those were some of the reasons that Sibley's was popular with people. Because the people who worked with the customers had to look neat and act polite. Okay. Places to eat. If you worked at Sibley's, and this is for Sibley's employees. Downtown Rochester, Syracuse, Southtown, Arundel, and Greece. Places to go. Southtown and Greece. Accumulate your meal receipts to an amount of $5 or more. Turn in the receipts to the office, which will reimburse you for 20% of your total amount. Wow, that was pretty good for the employees. They could get back some money on what they had for lunch. They don't do that today, but I know of anyway. Thursday is payday at Sibley's. That was a big deal, and I won't read that. But you can see everybody who worked there looked forward to Sibley's on Thursday. Now, who was in charge? Well, as you can see, William Lee was the last man to own Sibley's before it all died out. And you can see who some of the other people were in the past. People who helped make Sibley's the very, very best place to shop in Rochester. Better than McCurdy's, better than Edwards. Had more good stuff than Foreman's or any of those stores. Sibley's was the place to go. And William Lee was the president at the time. And you can see some of the people who worked there. Okay. And then they did something really neat. Can you imagine? They connected Sibley's with McCurdy's with a skyway bridge. Wow. There's not a remnant of that today. That's all gone. Well, where to go? There's no place for it to go either.
No McCurdy's.
It's just an empty lot on the other side. But you can see the bridge there in this picture. And also they're constructing, as you can see, the Liberty Pole in this particular scene. But there was a skyway bridge to McCurdy's. Kind of a neat thing. Is there anybody in the audience who went on that? Only 3 or 4. Okay. Okay. So you remember it. Good.
It worked downtown, yeah.
Okay, there it is. Protected from the wind, the rain, on the bridge. The bridge had a top on it.
Wasn't there very long.
Which made it more interesting. And that was a good idea. Okay, now what are some of the things that Sibley's left behind as souvenirs? Well, they had these nice pins. Sibley's loves downtown. Sibley's piggy bank store. And then if you worked there long enough, you got a special award. And you can see it over here for 30 years, a 30-year pin. They had, now, I don't know what those gems are, but those were people who worked for there about 50 years. They got a special one. And then it was, as you can see, it started in 1868, 3 years after the end of the Civil War. And they came out with that silver coin, or medal, to celebrate their 100th anniversary in 1968. Okay. It was kind of neat. Ads were like this. You could see people going places using Sibley's ads. And of course, there were whole newspaper. Remember the Times Union? Okay, and we had Democrat and Chronicle, but full-page ads for different products that they wanted people to come and buy there. That was wonderful. And then the colored ones, you can see, making use of the Genesee Valley Train Museum, and the one out there that's Jim Dirks up there, I think, who is operating the little museum in Rush, or in Henrietta, was one of those places. Okay. Sibley's grew. You can see it in the book over here, how they were in several different places. The Bold Century was in the 1960s. They sold products that were made in Rochester. The belts and so on that were made here, sold in Sibley's. That little magazine will be sent home to people. And as I said before, the nice thing about Sibley's was they would send things home, delivery that you bought, a dress or a coat or something. They would deliver it to your house, and you didn't have to slip it all over on the bus or wherever when it got home in one piece. So it was great. Let's see what else about Sibley's. Oh yes, they had some early competition. And here's the competition across the street from Sibley's. And it's called the McCurdy Norwell Company. And this would be back in the 1880s, 1890s, 1900s. And that's what the building looked like at that time. That's what McCurdy's looked like. Kind of different. And then they had something else that was in competition of them. It was called Edwards. And Edwards was nice. It wasn't quite like Sibley's. It wasn't as posh and not as well made and managed, but a nice place to go. And it was a nice place. If you couldn't find it in Sibley's, maybe you could find it in Edwards. So you could go to another store. And that was great. And then, of course, there was Foreman's. And if you needed something lady-wise, they made some very nice lingeries and other things that you could buy in Foreman's. So Sibley's had competition, but they still existed, and they did very well. Today, what has happened to Sibley's? It's not the same anymore. You can park your car out in front of Sibley's. Unbelievable. Pardon?
Have you been to the Mercantile on Main?
Yes. Let's take a look at that.
They've done nice things.
It's called the Mercantile, the Sibley Tower Building, the Mercantile Building. And you can see this is built in the 1929, 1930s. You could say really made a much bigger Sibley's at that particular year. And across the street from them was when they built the Temple Building. The Temple Building had to be at least 1 or 2 stories higher than Sibley's. So if that was if that was 12 stories, then the Temple Building had 13 or 14 stories. Okay, look at what's happened to them. Can you imagine you could live in Sibley's today? Luxury apartments there, ready to lease at Sibley's. Now, the rooftop never is going to look like it shows it in the picture, but it's nice for advertising, colorful looking. Put a garden up there. Luxury apartments, ready to lease. Let's see what they look like. Okay, here's what the inside looks like. $1,000 to $2,900. I think that's monthly rent. That's a little bit more than you want to pay, but you can see the chart here, depending upon the number of bathrooms that you want, and if you want a den or not. If you want 2 bathrooms or 1, it's going to cost you more. 3 bedrooms are different than the 2 bedrooms. 1 bedrooms, just a chart of what they cost at that particular time. And that was years ago. So now Sibley's is part of it anyway, is not associated with selling things, but in giving people a place to stay. Look at this. It says here that the wind companies of Boston must recognize structures of Sibley's, invested $100 million to create 176 apartment units, office space, art gallery, restaurant space, and cutting-edge technology laboratory. It's estimated that 2,000 people work or live or eat in Sibley's. Well, that's interesting. Okay. So it's still a vital place today, downtown. Inside, you can see what it looks like. Here's the clock, not suspended from the ceiling anymore, but on a pole. And you can see what some of the rooms look like. So it's a place that's just different. They call it the Mercantile Building. And here it is, Spectra, now leasing apartments. Live Bold, Live Spectra. And you're close to a lot of different things. It's got a tot lot playroom. It's got a yoga studio. It's got a lounge. disaster bike station. All these things are there if you are living at Sibley's, which is kind of interesting. Plus, a bark park. Whoa! I mean, you gotta. I mean, you can have a dog in Sibley's, and they don't have a dog washing station. Well, yeah, you wouldn't want a place where you wouldn't be able to wash your dog. That's important. Wash your dog. Rooftop deck game lounge. Rooftop convenient. Let's see. Parking. Attached parking. Well, that was important too. Okay, well, those are reasons that people stay at Sibley's. At what was Sibley's. Now, it's a business incubator. It's a university-affiliated high-tech hubs debuts downtown. And all those are high-tech people who are doing things that confuse me. All high-tech. People from the University of Rochester and other places. And there they are together. Designed to foster economic activity in the region. Oh, that's good. Okay. And here it is. Part of Sibley's RIT's City Art Space. And in the windows of Sibley's are some art of some of the students that go to RIT. And you can see them in the windows here. RIT's only art venue in downtown Rochester where exhibits, events, educational programs happen every once in a while. And this is what it looks like inside. Meet me under the clock. Where's the clock? Oh, there it is. Okay, it's up there. Oh, there it is. It's under the clock. And that's what it looks like today inside. But there's a restaurant there too. And guess what? You can park your car in front of Sibley's if you can find a space. Here it is. Today's Mercantile on Main. It sure looks different, doesn't it? Wow. And you can see here, it features 7 kitchen vendors serving a variety of foods. One of them was named Rufus after Rufus Sibley. It serves alcoholic beverages, has a lounge area, and on the back side of the bar is the Rococo, a coffee shop. So you get whatever you want, either something, a strong beverage or a not as quite strong beverage. All there. And this is what it looks like as you go down the inside. Okay, and finally, in tribute to the sweet memory of the thick, delicious, cooling, spoon-dipped, chocolate malted milkshakes that Sibley's kindly offered its weary shoppers. Do you remember that? Yeah. You had to eat it with a spoon. It was the first ice cream, milkshake that was so thick, you used a spoon. And I loved it. It was great. And that's my story about Sibley's. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody got any questions or comments? I'd like to take a microphone to you so other people can hear your question. Somebody?
Just for folks who used to love going to the Christmas, like seeing the Christmas decorations, so they found several of them, and they show them at Mercantile on Main at Christmas time. So they found all the old ones like in a basement or something like that, and you can still go see them around Christmas. So yeah.
Anybody else?
Right behind you.
A couple questions. I'd like to ask about MCC. Now that was there for a number of years. Is that totally gone? I know it's over at Kodak building. The MCC building, I mean, it was in there, the school was in the downtown area at one time. It's gone, it's over at Kodak. It's gone, it's over at Kodak. Okay. And when did Sibley's actually close? This one as a department store?
So it had to close.
Yeah, when? Yeah.
All I remember was right after the White Mall opened. It was within a year that Sibley's changed names. but then, you know, I don't remember, but
It was 1990.
in 1990.
Yeah, I was working in the tower at the time, and we all cried. My whole office was like, no, they can't close. Yeah, it was 1990.
I remember when they built that bridge, they didn't want to build it so McCurdy, they finally said, yeah, we ought to build the bridge, and then both stores closed about 2 years later. But hey, hang on.
You mentioned a bridge. There was another bridge right on Main Street. If anybody remembers what that bridge was.
Who went to McCready's?
During the war years,
Oh.
they buy bonds, is what it amounted to. And they had a lot of veterans there, a lot of active soldiers, and you could go up on the bridge and you could donate your money. I don't believe, nobody remembers this? Okay, it was there.
I recall, I have pictures of that. And if you bought a bond, you could ring the Liberty Bell.
Right.
That was a big deal there. So look at this picture right here. A gentleman named Philon owned the property, and he had a fit because they just took this property and built this thing right up here. So guess what? Up here is a plaque way, way up here with his name on it. It's the Philon Tower. And Mr. Philon was happy. What you can see down here now is called the Mercantile Building. So things have changed greatly since the age of the dinosaur. And I hope that you've enjoyed what we had to say about Sibley today, because I know that at least half of the people in here are probably have some fond memories and have spent some money in Sibley's. And for that,
Or worked
Sibley's.
there.
Yes.
Some of us worked there, I did.
Yeah.
Some of us almost ran shoplifting when they were young.
Some people work there too. Yes. Fantastic. Does anybody want to add to what we have to say about what there was like? I know you had to get there early in the morning. I told you my story about the hot coffee. Okay.
I worked at the Granite Building for 5 years, the one that had the fires, but I remember back in the, must have been the late 60s, because I took the bus to work, and how terrible it was at Christmas time because the bus would come and it'd be full. And maybe the second bus I might be able to have it standing room only, but that's how many people were on the, taking a bus downtown back then. It was a fun time to work downtown. Well, yeah. Well, thank you everyone for coming. I hope you enjoyed our venue here. We'll be here again next month. And, I hope you become a member if it helps support us. Anyway, maybe we'll see you next month. Okay? Thank you.
Upcoming second Tuesdays of the month programs from the Greece Historical Society. Early hop growing and beer production in Genesee Country, presented by Jane Oakes. October 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Greece Central School District's Transportation and Student Support Services facility. Times, dates, and locations for the following programs are subject to change. Please check our Facebook page for updated information. Want to learn more from the Greece Historical Society and Museum? Then click that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon to get notified when there's new content coming from the Greece Historical Society. You can visit us on the web at GreeceHistoricalSociety.org. You can find us on Facebook at Greece Historical Society. And you can stop in at the Greece Historical Society at 595 Long Pond Road.